thought, right, if I don't do this now, I could get handcuffed to this desk for 20 years. And I thought, right, if I set up my own business now, I can spend the next couple of years getting my database ready, trying to work with a few clients. I had the conversation with my mum and dad. My dad, he was like, don't do it. You're well thought of. You're working with an amazing company. And my mum was like, fuck it, go for it. You'll be amazing. It'll be great. And I was like, what's the worst that could happen? And so I rolled the dice, and well, I suppose the rest is history.
We're back with another episode of Founder Diaries. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma. This is a Rec Talk podcast. My guest today is a former business manager of Hayes and a former top biller there. He later went on to set up Peace Recruitment during the recession of 2008, which went on to become an award-winning recruitment agency worldwide. Having successfully exited that, my guest now is a Sherlaw's qualified business coach and also a co-member or co-founder of the Impact Board. I bring you Chris Peace. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Nitin.
Mate, we've been trying to do this for quite some time, haven't we? We just can't get diaries aligned. Every time I'm up in Glasgow, you're down here, and vice versa. Yeah.
Or on holiday, probably.
Yeah.
That hits the tan.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, mate. Look, first things first. Let's take a trip down memory lane, right? So, explain to me how you go from business manager at Hayes in 2008, where and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're going to be on a wedge, clients galore. By that point in your career, it's not a case of business development calls; it's catch-up calls, right, with key clients, churning through those key clients each month and quarter. And, these 5 might not be hiring, but these 5 will be, and that kind of thing. What on earth goes through your mind where you think, there's a global recession, and now's a great time to go and set up on my own?
Yeah, good question. That was a debate. At the time, I had no wife, no kids, a couple of quid in the bank saved up because I was doing okay. I was earning maybe 90,000 a year or something like that, including commissions. And I was billing about 420 something thousand. But that was just Edinburgh, and it was kind of surveying and project management and quantity surveying. But I got promoted through the ranks over my 4 or 5 years with Hayes, and I felt, wow, it was amazing when I got to even the edge of the top table. And it wasn't the top table, but for my region, it was on the edge. Looking in, I realized that maybe a lot of people were making things up as they go along, and it was a recession, and a lot of people hadn't worked through that. So I realized at that point that maybe the people that were at that table and the team that we had was going to be very, very different if the recession was going to be as bad as all the broadsheets and all the press were saying it was going to be. And so it was kind of one of those maybe right place, right time and risk reward situations. And I thought, right, if I don't do this now, I could get handcuffed to this desk for 20 years. And I just got a little bit of the ick about the big corporate, and I still was loving it, but it just seemed like everything just happened at the right time. And I thought, if I don't do this now, I never will. And I knew I was going to earn significantly less because the commissions were going to drop, and that, God knows, we probably were going to make redundancies and stuff, and maybe I would be one for the chop. And so I decided, I'm just going to give this a go. And I knew candidates were really important. And I thought, right, if I set up my own business now, I can spend the next couple of years getting my database ready, trying to work with a few clients. And I knew if I placed, one person a month, 2 people a month, I still had my bills covered. So I had the conversation with my mum and dad. My dad, risk profile very low. He was like, don't do it. You're well thought of. You're working with an amazing company. And my mum was like, I'm like my mum. She was like, fuck it, go for it. You'll be amazing. It'll be great. And I was like, what's the worst that could happen? And so I rolled the dice, and I suppose the rest is history. But yeah.
Well, this is it, right? It's one of those where you there comes a point where, especially if you're a successful, like early stage recruiter, you fly up the ranks quite quickly, right? Start off as associate, you consultant, managing consultant, you get up to, a certain level pretty sharpish, and then it does get a bit crowded at the top because correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume that Hayes would have had no shortage of business managers looking at associate director positions, and then it becomes a game of, well, who do you know, not what you know, and kind of who likes you and who are you impressing at the Christmas party, and like it becomes very, very Yeah, that kind of world. And yeah, I know from experience, for me, that was just the game I didn't want to play. I was like, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. This isn't me. And actually, I can probably earn the same amount of money by billing a fraction of what I've billed for these guys, right? I mean, for me, it was like I'd billed £500,000 for Michael Page, and I took home something to the tune of 75 grand, and I was like, well, even if I billed 150 grand, like the majority of that would be mine. This is a no-brainer, so I get it. And so, okay, so you went off, and was the intention always to build, grow, and scale a business, or were you at this point just going, let's see if I can do this?
Yeah, I would love to say to you, like, I talk to some of my clients now that I coach. I'm like, right, we've got to have a vision, we've got to have a plan, we've got to have a roadmap and everything else. But in fairness, at that point, aged 29 or something like that, I think I was, I didn't have a plan. I just knew I didn't want to do that. And I thought I could maybe give it a go. And I just took a punt. So there wasn't any plan to grow or scale. There was a fag packet business plan, about 2 pages, where I knew what my budgets were going to be and what I
Mm.
needed to build and where sectors that I thought I was going to work in and things like that. But then after that, it was just graft, and I just wanted to see what would happen. And then it wasn't for about 2.5 years till we got through the sort of economic crash. And I made okay money during that time. I kept the wolf from the door, but it wasn't anything to write home about. I can assure you that. I think it was like 40 something grand in my first year, and then it was 90 something in my second year, and then it kind of escalated. And then I realized at that point the job flow was coming in, and I could join forces with somebody, so I hired at that point. So no, there was no plan. I made it up as I went along, and I just got on the phone, chatted to candidates, chatted to clients, and tried to do everything that I'd been trained how to do from Hayes, which the training was amazing. And they do teach you how to be productive and plan your day
Mm.
and be really regimented. So I just tried to stick with that, but I did it with in the house and with a dog next to me, and it just cracked on. It's just kept it simple.
Interesting. At what point then did you start taking it? Taking it seriously sounds wrong, but you know what I mean, right? And for context, and there'll be people listening to this that are still in this boat, right? Where you go off, you set up your business, and then all of a sudden you're like, what? How much can I reduce my tax bill? How much shit can I put through this business and get away with it, right? And you're like, right, I've got my mobile phone, I've got my missus a mobile phone, and I'll get a car, and I get my missus a car, and then you know that's not, and you know this better than most, that's not a sellable proposition, right? When you've got a business that is turning over quite a bit of money, but has a huge expense base because you're using it as a lifestyle business. At what point did you start kind of changing to a sellable, exitable business?
Probably, realistically, probably about 7 years in, which would be halfway through
Wow.
my journey. Um, I mean, I knew the numbers were good and stuff like that, but I think at that point I had about 13 or 14 staff,
Hmm.
and I started realizing at that stage business can be a little bit like growing up. Like initially, you're just a baby that shits itself and can slaver on people and get away with stuff, and then eventually you get out of nappies and you start wiping your own arse. And then you maybe hit the teenage years where you're trying to find yourself and you can't decide whether you're going to be, the clever guy or the class geek or the top shagger or whatever, and you're trying to find yourself in that sort of middle school area, and then you grow up and realize that nobody gives a shit anyway, and you just crack on. And so I probably went through that sort of baby stage and
Yeah.
sort of early toddler and sort of primary school, and then I realized, right, I need to realize what am I doing here. And so obviously I brought in external support and an external coach to help me sort of realize that, because I very quickly realized that some of my staff were having babies, and I needed to think about HR and health and safety and
Hmm.
legislation and compliance and stuff like that. I mean, obviously I knew that before, but it became very quickly relevant to me that I was like, right, this is a proper entity now. I need to stop
Yeah.
messing around. And that was probably one of the big moments for that. Was we had one of our contractors actually die on site.
Oh wow.
And it was an accident, horrific accident and stuff. And I realized at that point, I was like, right, I need to check all the documentation. Like, have we got the subcontractor agreements? Have we got the insurance? Do we have all his tickets? And I think that was probably about 6 or 7 years in, and I thought we were good. We were doing it. But then I sort of was like, rude awakening, right? I need to take this really serious and I need to treat people properly. And so, yeah, probably 7 years in when I really started thinking about it. But probably about 4 or 5 years in, I started thinking, oh, I've got to be shot here. I
Mm.
should probably start focusing on this and really screwing the nut and thinking more about the plan of how to get where I want to get to.
It's a really good analogy. I like that. The whole kind of, adolescence period into, okay, what we all, what we were all like in school isn't what we're like today. And there comes a point, especially like using your school analogy, yeah, absolutely. There comes a point where you either want to leave school and you don't want the help and support and guidance from anyone anymore and you want to go and find your own way in the world, or you accept the fact that actually for you to do the things that you want to do, you might need to go to post compulsory education, and therefore it's a choice that you're making now to go and find further education and further learning to enhance you as a person. And I think that's a really strong analogy for those business owners who choose to then engage with business coaches, people like the impact board and so on and so forth, versus those who kind of like, nah, we'll just wing it and figure it out. You know what I mean? It's a really, really like valid analogy, and I think for people listening, yeah, that will hit home a lot. So, at what point then did you decide, okay, do you know what, now's time for me to move out or move away or look at selling it? Or was it just a case that somebody came along, right place, right time, and went, Chris, what's your number? Because I love what you guys do. I want it.
Well, my coach, Kai, who came in, she was Shirlaw's. She used to run search. She was managing director for search, so she had the right background for me. She'd been there, done it, and built a business and understood all the terminology. And she was an ex-recruiter as well. Shirlaw's have been running for like 30 plus years, so she brought in all this old methodology and stuff. And
Mm.
one of the first things she said was, right, what's the plan? Where are you going? And I was like, I know that my development is stagnating. I know I'm not growing at the pace I need. I know I'm going to let my team down if I don't keep developing myself. But I was at a brick wall and I didn't know what's the next thing I'm meant to do at this point. Do we just
Mm.
make more calls and hire more staff, or is there a better way to do this? And she said, right, let's just play a game then. And I was like, I'm loving it. And I was like 36 at the time or something. And I said, I still love it. I'm just going to crack on and making money and I'm having fun. And right, let's just get a number. So she nailed me down on basically 4 million quid. And
Right.
then and by the time I was 45, and she went, right, so by the time you're 45, you don't need to work in this business anymore. And there's 4 million quid, or that's what the valuation would be. She went, let's play a game on how.
And just to go back a minute, that 4 million quid is what you wanted out rather than what you wanted to sell for, right?
Yeah.
So for context, then, so for me to want 4 million quid out of my business, when I sell it, what does the sale price need to look like? What does the value of my business need to look like?
That's quite a complicated decision and the sort of thing we could probably talk about for the next half an hour. But
Oh, okay. So
but
it's
in,
not a simple
in
case of like you're probably looking at 20 grand, 20 mil sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people oversimplify valuations
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to business. You've got a baseline. Let's just say in recruitment right now, it's like 4 times multiplier.
Yeah.
So people just go, right, your EBITDA is 500,000, 4 times multiplier, you'll get 2 million quid for your business. But then you've got net assets and you've got other things to take into account, and there's more to it than that. And so that's maybe your baseline. But if you've got maybe a senior leadership team that is ready to step in if you exit the business, maybe that multiplier goes to 5. And if you've got an opportunity to see that you could expand, which I tried to do in my latter years at Peace. I tried to move us into Manchester. Didn't really work out for us for various reasons,
Mm.
which I won't bore you with. But showing that you could move into Manchester means that, right, okay, so you're saying you've been successful in Edinburgh and Scotland, and you've shown that you've got
There's
a leadership.
repeatability here. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, if we've moved into Manchester, can we repeat that and go into Birmingham?
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
piggyback off the HS2. Yeah, if we can do it in Birmingham, can we do it in London? And all of a sudden they go, right, that's now you've got an 8 times multiplier or something.
Mm.
So and conversely, it goes the other way. If all of a sudden you've not got a leadership team, you don't have processes, you don't have brand strength, you don't have repeatable lead generation and business development tactics, or you've not got a good CRM that holds it all together and all the policies. If you don't have that, then that becomes a minus. So you go from your 4 times multiplier to a 2 times multiplier. So there's a trade-off between, right, well, how much profit you actually making and how much potential does it have versus where the risk is. That's usually the case. And any broker, although you wouldn't want it with them, or anybody who a trade sale is going to come in and analyze that to hell. And obviously then you can get locked in. But yeah, the valuation is, it can be wide range, but generally
Fine,
speaking,
fairs.
EBITDA times a number.
Yeah, fairs. Okay, cool. So you've established your figure, and then you've got to go on from there, right?
Basically, yeah, and we just played the game, and it was like, right, where's the issues, what's the challenges, what are we going to plug in, where are we going to go? And then I was with my coach on and off for about 6 years myself, and then I brought her back in again to do the knowledge transfer to coach my senior management team. And so there was a knowledge transfer and a cross pollination of what I'd been trying to do for 6 years, and they'd seen it from me, from my communication strategy internally and externally, and then the penny dropped. And then that's, and 2 years later, the people that had been trained and that stepped up to the play and helped take us onto the numbers that we were getting were already aware of where we were going. And then I could step back and hand the keys over to them,
Mm.
knowing that they had the playbook and they knew what we'd done and they knew where the skeletons were hidden, and there were the skeletons in the closet and all this sort of stuff. Not that there was any, but they knew what they were
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
into.
yeah, 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 yeah,
You know?
yeah. No surprises.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So the whole process took a while then.
Yeah, the realization that I was building a business that could be sold,
Mm-hmm.
and then the realization of the journey that I needed to do to get it there, and that was a lot to get it there. But actually, the to get it ready, where I started getting offers was maybe 2 3 years ago. People started coming to me because they saw we were doing double digits, big double digits growth year on year, and the bounce
Yeah.
back through COVID, and then we managed to maintain it and things, and the brand reputation we built. So yeah, it probably took me 6 years to get to a situation where anybody externally gave a shit about us from
Mm-hmm.
when I first got a coach. But then actually the MBO itself, to transfer it over to the team that now own it, was about 6 months, and that was really quick and seamless because, like I said before, they knew everything about the business and it
Yeah.
could run without me because I basically built the business so it could run without me.
That's interesting. And the reason I kind of point out the time frame here is because I know from experience and from speaking to kind of, I'm very fortunate, right? I get to speak to incredibly intelligent people who give me insights on kind of what they do. And a lot of these guys that deal with kind of brokering and selling of businesses and so on, they often get approached by people that are kind of, something's gone wrong and they now want to sell the business. And it's sort of, and 9 out of 10 times it's a case of there's financial difficulty, or there's a change in sort of behind the scenes between the relationships of the co-founders and so on, and it's just, we just want to offload this. And that's absolutely the worst time to sell, right? Because, well, you're not selling because it's the right time or you've got something good to sell. You're selling because it suits you and not the buyer. um I think it's important because there's not enough people that talk about kind of, like you say, the sort of the time it takes to prepare the business for, the pre-sale stuff is so much more important than the actual sale itself, because that's the bit where it all falls apart. Or certainly that's the bit where you highlight to yourself how far you are away from actually achieving the sort of the sort of numbers that you want, right? Because there'll always be
Yeah.
somebody to swoop in and take it. You know.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you've got to divvy up your time. In Sherlock's, we talk a lot about red, blue, and black, and you're looking at your functionality of what you're trying to do. Red is like your infrastructure and paperwork behind the scenes. So that's your HR and your payroll and your compliance stuff that doesn't make you any money. Then you've got your blue stuff, which is your revenue generating. That's your fees, sending your CVs, confirming your interviews, going on your meetings, and all this stuff in recruitment.
Mm.
And then the black stuff, and this is the bit that everybody forgets. And this is your strategic asset building, money generating future things. Now, the problem is, it doesn't feel like you're making any money. So sitting there writing policies and procedures and trying to think about a communication strategy internally, or designing incentives to try and motivate your team, that's, you're thinking this is taking me away from the blue stuff, which is old school. Let's make some more cash. But the problem is, if all you do is make cash and then you've not spent enough time in the black, as Sherlock's refer to it, you've your foundations are built on sand. And that was the situation with me when I got 6 7 years into the business. I realized that I was building a house, but it wasn't going to be stable enough to take me where I needed to get. But
Interesting.
I was pretty chilled about selling or not selling the business, but I wanted to hit my target. I wanted to get to 45 and I wanted my number. And if I wasn't going to get basically there, then I would have just hung around for another couple of years or 5 years and stayed to try and achieve the objective. But
Mm,
fortunately, we hit it bang on last September.
amazing, amazing. So how long did you take out? What did you do with the freedom?
What did I do with the freedom in terms of time or financially
Well,
or?
well, yeah. I mean, the finances free up the time, right? So it's time. Time is well, yeah. Without getting too deep, time is freedom, not money, right? So yeah, what did you do with your time? How long did you take out before you thought actually I need to get back in and do something?
No, none, no time at all.
Interesting.
I was already sort of teeing stuff up, doing some guest speaking things and trying to, pass on some knowledge. And I love helping people. And some would say that training or speaking is something that I'm quite strong at. So I wanted to impart that knowledge. So I started doing that actually before I'd even approached
Ah,
the,
right.
the, the board with the senior management team about buying my business. I started doing some speaking things and then I thought to myself, right, I might swap over. So the company that I mentioned earlier, Shirlaw's, that came in to train me, I managed to make the criteria to become a Shirlaw's coach. And so I had to go through. So straight away, I went and started passing all the modules that I needed to do and completing all the stuff to learn it from the other side of the desk that I'd been coached from. I was now becoming the coach from that. So I'd already bedded into my business. So that worked really well. So I switched straight away to Shirlaw's and I secured my first client within a month. There was a bit of nepotism there. Somebody, a friend of a friend, knew me and recommended me, and they went, "Oh, you doing this? Can you come and help us do something similar?" So I had my first client within about 6 weeks of handing over the keys. And then at the same time, I went back to kind of a home learning, and I did like an ILM and leadership and development management because I wanted to scratch an itch. So I was straight away was winning clients, and then I
Ah,
joined Impact Board, and then we've got more clients that we're supporting now and things like that. So there was no downtime really.
interesting. Interesting. Do you think that maybe the achieving of the sale was just like another objective ticked off onto the next one? Because it seems like you're very kind of like objective focused, right? There's the goal I need to get to, but it's not I get to that goal and celebrate. It's kind of get to that goal, cool, done that. Before I even get there, I'm thinking about the next step and the next step. How important do you think that is for a business owner in your experience?
It's different strokes for different folks. I was always a target hitter. I feel like, especially when I'm part of a team, when I'm on my own, as I am pretty much most of the time now as an individual coach, I don't put the same pressure on myself
Mm.
that I do when I'm part of a team. So when I was working, I've always felt like I was employed by Peace and I worked for the team. I didn't ever see myself as some sort of God complex that I owned 100% of the shares and I was the gaffer. I mean, yeah, there was sometimes you need to sort of pull rank, but that probably happened a handful of times in 15 years because I always saw it as a collaboration and teamwork, which is probably why our attrition was so low and we got the reputation we did. But yeah, I'm personally very goal oriented, and when it came to team, I was always, first over the top, or I was always trying to make sure I was grafting with the team and not just telling them what to do, but helping them actually do it as well.
I love that.
Now that I'm on my own, I'm not. I don't have the same motivations and goals. I'm actually scratching my head a little bit if I'm being honest with you. What is the next goal? But I certainly didn't have a big massive blowout or celebration. I'm all about delayed gratification, and I don't want to believe the hype too much. It just is what it is. And actually, there's so many other people that are doing so many more amazing things. But this is just me in my little box. I'm happy with what I've got. I'm not low when it's shit and I'm not too high when it's high. I'm generally quite a steady Eddie, but
Right.
I like working as a team, but I'm not really on to the next thing now, if I'm honest with you, Nick. And I'm not like thinking, yeah, I want to grow like this coaching business. I just want to help maybe 15 clients a year, help them achieve their goals by imparting some knowledge. And that's genuinely my why now. Like I'll be really happy when I think two or three of my current clients exit within the next 5 years. And some of them, I won't mention their name, but that'll be that'll be a bigger celebration for me when I go and see those individuals and they know who they are when they do the exit that they want. And if I've played a tiny little part in helping them get there, then
Yeah.
hopefully they can buy me a wee beer and pat on the back at the bar together. You know, that's what I want now.
When did that change for you then? When did that become your why, or when did that start evolving? Not changing, but when did you start evolving into the sort of, I call it the Miyagi character, right? Where you get to that point where like I don't need to win the trophies and stuff. Actually, I want to see other people win the trophies. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Do you know what? It probably started when my team started getting bigger because I started realizing when I came off a desk that the number of interviews or fees that I was personally putting on the board didn't really matter anymore because it was all going into this one pot.
Mm.
And then I saw some trainees that did had no recruitment experience go on to bill 180 200 grand with me, or I saw people that came in as recruitment become sort of management and develop, and then I started taking more and more fulfillment from their successes and celebrating their wins, and helping them, picking them up when they were down. And hopefully that came across authentic with the team. I think if you spoke to most of the guys, they would that worked with me at Peace, even the ones that moved on to set up their own business and stuff, I'd like to think that while some of them would maybe say I was challenging on occasion to work with, I don't think any of them would say that my heart wasn't in the right place to help them achieve their own personal goals.
Mm.
And so probably when I stopped allowing my own billing and the interviews and the jobs that I was getting in or whatever define me as an individual, and I started realizing that there was more power in teamwork than there was an individual. Because before that, I think I probably was quite selfish.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. It does. You get to that point, I suppose, isn't you, where you kind of like, actually, there's only so much that I can achieve on my own. But if I can support five people achieve, moderate success, because will they build? I had this when we ran our recruitment business. That I had a business partner that was very much no. I need to build. I need to build. I need to build on the tools because he needed that gratification. He needed to see his name. He would literally put his name on the billing board and that kind of thing. Whereas for me, I was kind of like, yeah, but we've got four other people now. Will those four people individually ever build more than what I could? No. But those four people, if I can get them billing their absolute best, collectively, that's more than what I can build, and it's using the same amount of my time. Do you know what I mean? And so, yeah, there's sort of a strategy behind it, but absolutely, I think you're right. There is a level of kind of um, the feeling that you get watching people grow from this person came in as a trainee and now they're running their own team, or they've gone on to run their own business, and knowing that you played a part in that's cool.
I think going back to the analogy I said earlier about the sort of being a baby and then being an adolescent and becoming a young adult, I
Yeah,
think it's all maybe you just get older and it's like becoming a parent. All of a sudden, you put your own health and
yeah,
your own happiness and your own sleep and that absolutely second to that
yeah.
of potentially living your dreams out through your children and watching them grow and become better. So without being too sappy about it, there's definitely something there with getting a bit of grey hair and baldness coming in and having kids. Not that I would refer to my staff as children, but just in terms of development and
No,
watching
but
them
there's
come.
that relationship that it's not that they're children. It's that you have um a paternal instinct towards your staff, right? I don't wish it on anyone, but literally the worst feeling I ever have experienced is sitting in a room with all my staff, letting them know that the business has failed and we need to let everybody go, you know, and then having to I wrote them checks for their last paychecks because there just wasn't any money in the business. Um, that was the worst feeling. And that is that there is that level of because these people look up to you for the answers, like the way when we're little and when we're kids, our parents know the answer to everything, and there comes that point in when you're growing up as a child where you're like, oh shit, my parents don't know everything, and fucking hell, they've been winging it this whole time too, you know. Your staff are the same. They look to you to be the one that knows all the answers. Then that if anything goes wrong, I'm going to turn to you and Chris. This client said this, or Chris, this has happened, or the worst has happened. One of our contractors has passed away on site. No one else is stepping up and going, let me sort that out. So yeah, it is a parental instinct that you have where you're like, these people look up to me and rely on me, and so I've got to act and behave in a certain manner and better myself, which arguably I don't think enough do in terms of that professional development or seeking personal professional development. What do you think drove you to do that? Were you always a kind of were you always the kind of person that can kind of look at yourself and be like, right, I've hit a wall now. For me to progress, I need like intervention here. You know, I need to go to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I think I've always been, I would like to think, pretty self-aware. Like I knew I wasn't that academic, and if I didn't but I was always confident enough to sort of put my hand up, even in school, and be like, I don't understand that. Like I don't get
Yeah.
it. Or this is crap, or I need another way to learn how to do this. And so I kind of knew that if it just wasn't, I wasn't in flow of some sort. And so, yeah, I think probably there was a self awareness, but
Mm.
also confidence to be, you know, to admit that you don't know it all and stuff like that. I did that in the office with the clients, sometimes with my staff and clients. I'd be like, I don't know the answer to that. Let me come back to you. But I think maybe previously, or some people go, oh, do you know what? I know the answer to that. This is definitely what we need to do. And they just blag it. I'd be like, I don't know. And they're like, can we get together and discuss the pros and cons and, make a united decision on the best way to move forward in this regard?
Mm.
Like letting some staff go during COVID or whatever and restructuring the business and stuff like that. Yeah, nobody'd ever been through that before. And I was like, look, I don't know how to do this. I'm probably going to fuck it up. But what I can say to you guys is I'll try my best to, be really honest with you. And I need to, look after the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be as honest as I can with you throughout the process, and I won't, spin anything to you. So probably just a confidence to know that where I have shortcomings, of which there are many.
But then you attract those people, right? So into your coaching business. Like I know a handful of the people that you guys were in Lisbon with, for example,
Yeah.
and there's similarities in personality types there. You know, these are all um, confident people, but aware of their own shortcomings and are happy to, invest in themselves. Do you know what I mean? So again, from a purely a commercial point of view, it's easier to sell to people that are like you. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
what's the plan with Impact Ball then? Tell us about that. Tell us why you got involved with that. Because like, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Rich and Tristan already kind of have some frameworks of this already, and then you joined them at a later date, or did you guys reposition it?
Yeah. So long story short, they did have Unbound for about 18 months or whatever. That's who I went to go and speak with when I was still working at Peace. So I did some guest speaking with their group, but they had many more people, but it was like webinar based and then the odd
Yeah.
sort of face to face thing. And people were paying a small amount of money a month. Like I'm talking a couple of hundred maybe to attend these events and do the weekly webinars and stuff like that. And they had maybe say 48, I think, people. And then they were like, "Oh, would you like to come and join us and do this?" And not putting, verbatim, but I was like, "The business model's fucked." I says, "I can't decide whether you're a trainer, if you're a face-to-face events, if it's peer-to-peer, are you
Yeah.
webinar,
What is
are
this?
you
Yeah, yeah.
coaching these guys?" I was like, "I don't know what the fuck is your business model. Like, what are you? Because you are training them, you are doing this. This is pick a lane. Like, what are we doing?" And so we sat in a hotel one night, we had a few scoops, and I was like, "What's annoying about your business?" And they're like, "We're not having an impact with the guys because we're trying to be everything to these 48 people. Some people are listening and some people are implementing and some people aren't. And some folks just jump on the call because they're lonely in the house by themselves or whatever." And it's like frustrating that they weren't having the positive
Yeah,
progression
yeah.
with the people that were part of the group. And I was like, right, that needs to go if I'm going to join, and we need to rebrand this, and we need to pick a handful of elite leaders and put them into a peer-to-peer group, charge them considerably more, but work with them more intensely.
Mm.
So let's pick real winners and let's make sure that we don't let any dickheads in, and let's hold them really accountable, and let's put a playbook in as well as coach them when we need to. So that was January this year, and we've got 10 clients working with us just now. We've rejected a few people who wanted to work with us because they just weren't fit for purpose. And we're looking to take capacity to about, we think probably about 14 will be the max that we want, because Rich has got his own clients, Tristan's got his own clients, and I've got another 5 or 6 of my own clients as well. And I don't want to be doing constant graft.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy some of the freedom that I've managed to achieve. So that's the sort of capacity levels we're at. But yes, you're right. We completely rebanded, sacked off the old model, and now we want to just have a real impact. And just coming back from Lisbon last week, the results in the last 6 or 8 months from the 7 clients that managed to join us were amazing, and they all
Great.
presented presentations, and some of the results are just fantastic. And so it just make my heart happy watching these guys going, this is what we've done, and they've really implemented what we've been talking to them about. So yeah, it was great.
I love it. Yeah. As I say, I know um, three of the businesses that were involved with that really well, and absolutely, these are like incredibly like driven people, but are great people as well at the same time. And you do want to see them do well, and it does give you that sense of like joy and pride to be like, oh yeah, I'm glad that you're doing well. Nothing worse than when you watch a good person failing, right? So,
I think you'll end up having, well, I know at least one of them's been on your podcast already, and I
oh,
think
they've all been on. They've all been on.
Oh, really? Well, I know one of that group. He'll definitely exit. So I think maybe within about 2.5, 3 years, you'll be inviting that individual back on your podcast to go, right, let's talk about your exit and your
Yeah,
trade sale and how did it go and what was the journey. And maybe he'll sit and go, yeah, there was a wee point when I connected with the impact board and they helped plug this in and blah blah blah. And then he'll be sitting where I'm sitting now, and you'll be going, Ryan, what are you going to do now? And maybe these guys and girls will go on to be coaching and helping other people as well. So
yeah.
I am loving it. I am loving it. It is very fulfilling. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. We ask every guest on Founder Diaries to talk through some of the lessons and the learns, right? So looking at your listen, we're far from over, right? There's you got hopefully many more years ahead of you than you've got behind you so far in business. But so far, if I ask you, Chris, what's been your biggest lesson learned? What's the thing that you've taken away the most?
From business,
Yes.
I
We'll do both. We'll do business and personal.
okay. Well, be authentic. I think especially now these days with the new generation of individual coming through and AI and fake news and all this shit. People who have watched me on other podcasts, some of them now are my clients, have said, I connected with you because I thought you came across like really genuine on the podcast. And I'm like, I'm the same on that podcast as I am when I'm working with you face to face, as I am if I'm on the
This is
golf
me.
course with you
Yeah.
or if we're having a pint. And so I think being authentic as a leader and in life is mega, because so many people try to fake it till they make it and all this nonsense. But I think everybody these days has got a pretty good bullshit radar and can tell when somebody's just spinning a yarn to sell something shite.
Mm,
So I think be authentic, and then you can bring people on your journey if you can communicate your vision really clearly. So an authentic person with a clear vision and values for me is really important.
brilliant. I love that. Personal?
Um, Personal lessons. Oh, I suppose look after your own personal space. Like
Mm,
the business for me became at one point quite all consuming. My back was really bad. I put on a bit of weight. I stopped looking after myself. I drank a bit too much, cost me my marriage. I became a dickhead in the office. I lost some staff over it, and I kind of just lost my way a little bit. And it's probably because I was so transfixed for a big busy period of time that I didn't allow myself to get off the treadmill. Now maybe that focus over those 2.5 years where I really went pedal to the metal. I mean, like working all day, all night,
mm.
grafting, thinking about it, dreaming about it. Was the cost worth it? Maybe. Was my health concerns at the time? Absolutely. There was good. So maybe protect your personal space, or just book some time in your diary for a bit of me time where you can do something that makes you happy. Because I made some pretty shite decisions back then.
Love that. Love that. What's your biggest win? Life or personal? Sorry, life or business? Personal or business?
Biggest win. Um, Well, I mean, selling the business is a pretty big win, and achieving that goal. So that's a pretty obvious one, I would say. Like having started something from nothing and then building a plan 8 years ago to do it at 45, and then to achieve that objective. That was a big win, for sure. Um, I quite like the accolades. When we won best small recruitment business in Scotland, and we won best large recruitment business in Scotland.
Yeah,
That was
that's
good.
that's progression.
Yeah, but you know what it's like. A lot of people will say if you buy enough tables at these things and you sponsor the awards before, then you get the
Yeah.
vote and stuff like that. And but it was sort of cross-checked by the REC and stuff when you put your submission in. And our numbers were our numbers and our growth was really good and things. So I do like to think that it was a genuine vote we got. I wouldn't think there was any sort of anything dodgy happening there.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I quite like standing holding the trophy at the end because I'm not really mad into kind of money or materialistic things, but I quite like being told you've been done a good job and standing with a trophy or the certificate at the end. So biggest win was probably those two things I would think, but I did like winning the S1 Job Awards Best Large Agency because as we celebrated with the whole team, and the bus journey back from Glasgow was great fun, and there was a few sore heads in the morning, but it just felt like we did it together as well.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's definitely something.
I love that. I love that. Any closing thoughts? Any advice for business owners who are maybe going through a bit of a struggling time at the moment? I say at the moment, it feels like this is the new norm. It feels like there's a lot of people that are just kind of waiting for the tide to shift, and it's just not happening, right? Any advice for people that are really going through it right now?
Yeah, I took a couple of notes down on this actually, Nitin, because
Mm.
I thought, right, what knowledge would I want to impart to somebody who's listening to your podcast? And I thought, right, don't focus on the fees, you focus on the service and the process. Imagine it almost like a sausage machine. If you just put good productivity in and good energy in, eventually there'll be some decent sausage bangers that come out the other end, or vegan bangers, whatever your favorite is, right? But focus on, not the fees, but focus on the process and the positive experience. Focus also on key metrics. And for me, key metrics, if you just sometimes when you're running a business, you think I've got so much to work with and all the rest of it. I was like, build a really good culture and set good values, and behind being that authentic leader that I was talking about. But if you can do that, people will follow you and they'll run through walls for you. But also, there's maybe a couple of key numbers in your business that you need to manage because there's a million in recruitment.
Mm.
For me, that was always job flow. Like, if we had enough jobs, we should be able to fill them because that's what we get paid to do from our clients. They're like, well, there's a job, go and find me somebody for this job. And so, if you've got the process right, so job flow was always pretty much number one for me. And then after that, it was interviews. Because if you're not getting candidates sat in front of clients, you're not going to make any money. And I was like, everything else, while it was something that we measured, it didn't really matter. It didn't really matter. Meetings and face to face this and CVs sent and time on
Sort
the
of
phone and all that.
top of funnel stuff, isn't it? All of those activities all lead to those two things, right? Job flow and then the number of interviews that you're getting. Without those two things, it all falls apart.
Yeah,
You can have the best sales call in the world. You can have the best marketing campaign in the world. But if it isn't bringing in the jobs, and you're not, even if you got the jobs, if you're not getting the interviews, there's a fundamental flaw in your business model.
100%. And I think it's easy as an owner, especially looking after 25 staff, looking down on all these stats. And sometimes I got transfixed completely wrong on like time on the phone and
Yeah.
number of CVs sent. And I was like, I was looking at the wrong thing. And probably even up until I was selling the business, I was still doing that. But now my helicopter a bit further up and looking a wider sort of vantage point on all these businesses, I'm like, I focus so much on all these little things. And some people will say you've got to sweat the small stuffs to get to the big stuff, but focus on a key matrix like interviews and job flow. And the other thing for me was build a trusted network.
Mm.
You should always be out speaking to people. I mean, we've spoke before, but never actually met. But now we've connected here. There's maybe somebody else I can maybe suggest an amazing guest for your podcast, or maybe you'll come across a client in two
Yeah.
months that you meet in the Glasgow Curry Club thing, which I think you attended just a month ago, right?
Indeed. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I didn't get a chance to go to, but I'll make the next one. But you maybe meet somebody there and you'll get a vibe off and go, you know what, you should maybe go and speak to Chris and the guys at Impact Board. I think they might be able to help you. And so even though this is, 45 minutes or an hour, and neither of us are really getting paid for it or anything, you're building another relationship. It's a partnership, it's a teamwork, and so you never know where they go. And so I think making sure you're always building trusted relationships, both clients, candidates, and potentially peers and competitors and stuff like that. So that would be my sort of couple of nuggets.
I love that. Chris, I want to thank you, mate. I think this has been massively insightful, guys. If there's anybody who wants to reach out to Chris for coaching or even some just advice and a chat, I think it's pretty clear. His why is helping people, and he is very generous with his time. I know he won't mind me saying that. And so yeah, reach out to him. All links will be in the description of this episode on whatever platform you're watching this on. Chris, I want to genuinely wish you all the best with the Impact Board and the coaching gig. I look forward to eventually when we do finally sit down and crack a beer together, mate. May you see many years of success to come.
Thank you for having me on. Thanks, and good to kind of meet you formally. That's excellent. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Guys, that's all from us. New episodes drop every Wednesday and every Friday. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all the cool shit that you guys do that allow me to do this cool shit as a job. We'll see you again next time. Thank you.